Hey, I hope all is awesome and you're having a beautiful, blessed day. Today I want to keep my promise for sure and tell you or share with you the CP tag. The CP tag was something that was created a few years ago. I don't know how long ago, but it was created by somebody with cerebral palsy. And it is a series of 10 questions that will tell you what an individual's experience with CP is like. So let's get into it. What type of CP? Question number one is, what type of CP do you have? I have spastic diplegia CP, and for me, that means that it affects my legs more than my arms. Although my whole body could get tight at times, but the affected, disabled main part is in my legs. How did you feel about CP growing up? So, growing up was a mixed bag. And it depends on what age you ask me about. Because when I was little, I was in an occupational handicap class. That's what we used to call it back in the 80s and early 90s. I was born in 82, so I went into kindergarten around 87 when I was 5 years old. And when I went into kindergarten, my experience was the beginning of the ADA being passed. So all of our heroes, Judy Heumann and her friends, were doing all the work that needed to be done to pass the ADA. But when I was in kindergarten, the ADA was not passed yet. And it did not pass until I was in 3rd grade. But with that said, backtracking a little bit, because things were such as they were, we were required to play in the kindergarten yard for safety because we were delicate. And for those of you who are listening to this and are listening only on the audio, I'm doing quotes when I say safety and delicate. Because we were thought of as breakable and that we needed to be overly protected. And thank God that has changed. But that was elementary school, early elementary school. And then when I got into 3rd grade, I switched schools. So when I got into 3rd grade, I got to see the change and play with other kids, my other friends, on the big yard freely. I didn't have to play in the kindergarten yard anymore at my new school. And it gave me a lot more freedom to actually just to be a kid and maybe get hit by a ball. Not intentionally, but accidentally when, kids are running around and you get hit by balls. And when you're playing dodgeball and back in the day, we used to play dodgeball. And soccer. And we used to figure out how to play dodgeball, soccer, baseball, and hockey, and everything that you could think of in PE class. There was no holding back with our activity at that point. And so that was elementary school. In junior high, I started to get teased because, the saying, hurt people. So I started to get teased by people that were actually getting teased. And so that lasted for a little bit. But then when I moved through that and that stopped happening, what started happening was that I was led to be an advocate for myself, not only in high school, but in early junior high as well, because I had gone to a lot of IEP meetings. IEP meetings are individualized education plan meetings, which IEPs are essentially coming up with a plan for a student with a student present. A student should always be present, and this is the advocate in me speaking. A student should always be present for the things that involve them. And so I was very, very blessed and lucky to have parents who knew that I could speak my mind and that I could have the faculties and the know-how and the speech and the wherewithal to speak my mind at these meetings and stick up for myself and tell the teachers what I thought I needed. So in 7th grade, when I went to my new school, Eagle Rock Junior Senior High School, I was in choir. I was the first person ever with a disability to be in my school choir. Eagle Rock is a junior high and senior high combo, so you're there for 6 years. If you are a student that does not transfer from another school, you are there for 6 years. And so I was the first student ever to want to be in choir that had a disability that required a chair. And the auditorium did not have accessibility to the stage. So when I was in choir and I was performing with the students, with my classmates, my mom or my dad would have to come and help me up the steps. But then, one day, out of the blue, we get told that that can't happen anymore for the sake of safety. And so, that day or that week, my teacher, Mr. Bockelman, I'll never forget him. He was just an awesome teacher. But my teacher came to me and said, I got bad news. You can't perform in the assembly unless you perform from the floor. And so, like a good student, I did that. But I went to the principal and I said, we need to do something because I don't want to perform from the floor. And so it took a lot of work, but I believe it was by 8th grade that work started being done on a new ramp from that would allow me accessibility to go into the auditorium on the stage level. And for those of you who know that story, because I'm kind of retelling a story right now, for those of you who know that story, the excuse that I got from, I believe it was either the school or the school district, was that there was a 100-year-old tree in the spot where the ramp would have to go. Well, that 100-year-old tree is no longer in existence. And I hope that it is still no longer in existence. I haven't been by the school in a while. But I hope that things are still the same as it was when I left and when I was there. And I hope that students are utilizing it and making the best of it and realizing their their passions and their dreams for stage, anything that has to do with the stage, whether it be acting, singing, stage artistry, by building sets. I hope that you guys are getting the best use out of it that is possible. And so that was that. And I didn't start coming into my self-acceptance until I was 39, I think. I'm trying to think of how old I was when I first started dancing, by taking the Rolettes classes. I think I was in my late 30s. So I was probably 39. I've been taking them I've been involved with art with the Rolettes and BBS, Boundless Baby Society, for 5 years. So that is my journey with that. And as far as family was concerned, I wasn't considered special. I'm still not. And so that can cause a lot of back and forth, because you have your opinions about how you should move, and they have your opinions about how you should move, and you just have to kind of come to a common ground and say, the only thing I need to do is move. So yeah. But all in all, my family and my cousins, they treated me like any other knucklehead. I was the little one. Well, one of the little ones. Me and my brother, we were among the youngest in our family. And so I was treated as normal, and I don't like using that word, but I was treated as normal as possible and included in a lot when I was little. So, number 3. How did you get CP? And number 2 and number 3 are interchanged. Because when I listened to this list, I forgot to write down number 2 actually on number 2. But anyway, that aside, how did you get CP? Well, I don't know for sure, but what I do know is that I also have hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus in Greek means waterhead or water brain. And hydrocephalus is when spinal cord fluid gets in your brain, and it could be something that is detrimental to your health or deadly. But glory to God, it hasn't been. Obviously, I'm still here. And so I got diagnosed with CP when I was 1 year old, but I was first diagnosed with hydrocephalus when I was 1 month old. I had my first operation for a VP shunt placement when I was 1 month old, and I was also a preemie. That was 11 weeks early. I had to spend 3 months of my life, the first 3 months of my life, in the hospital. And during that 3 months, I had the shunt placement. And so, and what happened to, as the sign that something was quote unquote wrong, was that I wasn't meeting my sitting up milestone, my sit up milestone mark on my own. When I used to sit up when I was little, when I was very, very little, I would have to sit in between somebody's legs with like their legs straight out and then sit in between them. in order to stay up. So that was that. And let me see. Number 4 is, how has CP impacted your life? Well, you constantly have to think about accessibility. You constantly have to think about, can I get from place A to place B and be comfortable doing it? Especially now that I'm older, I have to think about it on my own and think about, well, if I were to ask for help, would the help that I'm asking for put the other person in danger? And so you don't want to put yourself in a situation where somebody else that you do not know or does not know you physically will have to help you climb a massive amount of steps. I used to be able to do that a lot when I was younger, but a body changes when you get older, obviously. So I have to be really mindful of, where am I going? Is it accessible? And where am I going? Is it accessible? And will it be accessible for me getting in as it is getting out, and vice versa? So, accessibility does a lot. And for independence sake, I take access service all over the place. I take it to dance class. I take access to dance class, therapy, and church when I am going through a choir practice season, which now is choir practice season. And I also take it to Bible study during the week when we do have Bible study during the week. And so those are my 4 independent points where I utilize access service on a weekly basis. And so that is another way that my CP impacts my life, is I have to have the accessibility to go from place A to place B. And I am a person that needs physical help getting out of my house. So I have to make sure that I schedule my schedule around the schedule of my family. That way somebody could be here when I'm either leaving and they could leave after I leave, or quite honestly, help me get outside and then leave once I'm outside. And somebody has to be home when I get home to help me get back in the house. So that is a little bit about how CP impacts my life. And furthermore, beyond that, I had a lot of surgeries when I was little. Because of the hydrocephalus, I had numerous shunt replacements, and actually I had numerous shunt revisions, which a shunt revision is different than a shunt replacement, because a shunt revision, they go into your brain basically, and they clean out the shunt, like they irrigate it or something, and then they sew you back up. A shunt replacement is when they take the whole tubing out and then they put new tubing back in. So I've had both shunt revisions and shunt replacements. And I've had multiple leg surgeries as well when I was little. I learned how to walk when I was 8 years old after after an extensive leg surgery. I took my first steps at the age of 8 years old, and so that is how some of CP has impacted my life. Let's see, number 5. And number 5, I think the answer has changed. Do you ever think about life without CP? I used to think about life without CP a lot, to the point where I would get so frustrated that I would cry over it and, have what I would call little tantrums, and what I would now call little tantrums. Back then I would be like, I'm just, sick of this. And I'm still, there's still times where I'm like, I'm tired of this. I don't want to do it anymore. But now I've come into the belief that God is using what I was given, what He gave me, to impact me and other people for better. And so, do I think about life without CP now? No. Did I used to think about life without CP? Yes. Okay, so how was school with CP? I already answered that question. But school with CP was hard. And it wasn't hard because it was hard scholastically. Like, it wasn't hard because of school, for school's sake. It was hard because I did have those people in my life that looked at me, and just because of outward physical appearances, they automatically believed that I would have to take the longer road educationally to get somewhere, and that I wasn't capable of doing certain things. Like, I remember specifically my first IEP meeting. I remember specifically my first IEP meeting at my new junior high school when I was in 7th grade. The team just looked at me and said, "So, sweetheart, we're assuming that since you have a disability and that you are enrolled in special education, that you will be completing your high school education when you are 22. And I looked at them and I'm like, no, I will be completing my high school education at 18 with a diploma and not a certificate of completion. Because when you are a student with a disability within the special education system, you have the option of completing your education with a certificate of completion at 22, or going full force and completing it with a diploma. So I chose, and I proved that I could complete it with a diploma. I was actually done with my credits early, but I stayed. So I was done with my credits early, but not so early that I could leave school. But I was one of those lucky kids who was able to, when you're a senior and you get to leave at lunch. So I was one of the lucky kids that senior year, I got to get out of school early every single day, which was nice. My grandma and grandpa would come pick me up, and then they would go back for my brother, because at that time, my brother was in 7th grade. We're 5 years apart. And so they would pick me up, and then I believe Oh yeah, that's when my brother went to another junior high school. Um, so they would come pick me up and then go pick my brother up when my brother got out of school. Um, so that was an adventure in itself. And it was interesting because that is when my advocacy was at its highest at that point in my life, before I was affected by not teasing, but like invasive questioning. Hi Gracie, I see you. And happy CP day. So yeah, so I was affected a lot in college by evasive questioning. The typical things about what happened to you. Is there a cure? Are you in therapy? Everything that surrounded my disability, people wanted to know, just for the sake of nosiness. Maybe some of them were curious and just couldn't communicate it. But honestly, when you go up to a person and you automatically spout off the most intimate questions, we are going to consider a nosy and not curious, because most people with disabilities, not just CP, want you to get to know them as people first, that have different loves and that have different interests and want to interact as anybody else would. So, even college was a hard time with that aspect. Let me see. Where was I? How is school with CP, which was number 6. Okay, so number 7. How has it changed throughout your life? So, how has my CP, changed throughout my life? When I was younger, partially when I was younger, so from when I learned how to walk till I was about 17, I would go to youth group or go to children's choir in my younger years and climb my church steps without a second thought. And my pastor, or my youth pastor, would take me down the steps without a second thought. I would just do it, not even thinking about it. I would just do it. And then when I was 18 and into my 20s, it started to get a little harder. And so when it started to get harder, I kind of considered dropping out of choir and stuff. But my church family, my friend James, who is our worship leader and our director of technology as well, he graciously moved the choir from upstairs in the traditional choir room to the library, which is on the bottom floor of our church. And that is where choir has been since I started having issues. But thank you guys at ERBC for accommodating me in such an amazing way. And I love you guys for it. We are still figuring some stuff out because my body has changed yet again. And so we are still kind of, yeah, like I said, figuring stuff out, but I'm still included, and not left out of things. My church has always been a church that has never left me out of anything. And going back to how was CP when you were growing up, I got to go to camp for the first time because one of my youth group leaders was studying to be a social worker. And as part of her studies, she needed to do hours with somebody who had a physical disability. So, and she knew, she had studied it. She knew what I needed, metaphorically, what I need. Metaphorically? Is that the right word? She knew by the literal book what I needed, but she was willing to help me at camp and really listen to me and listen to where I needed her help and where I did not. And back in high school, I did need a lot more help than I do now, with getting dressed, namely, and stuff like that. So that was another milestone of me growing up, was I got to go to camp twice before I started college. Once in 9th grade, and I believe once in 10th grade and once in 11th grade. I didn't go the summer that I didn't go the summer that I graduated high school, because the summer that I graduated high school, I was the earliest person to start college of all of my friends. And I also had another advocacy trip. I forgot where I was, I think. I was on still, how has CP changed throughout your life? Well, not so recently, last Mother's Day, I had a fall in church, and my brain, as far as, not me physically, but my brain as far as my confidence, was kind of shaken. So, I like using my chair now more than I do using my walker on long distances. And now I would consider even church being a little bit of a long distance, depending on the day. So I don't use my walker much outside of my house. But when I do, I feel tired afterwards. I feel a little bit tired afterwards. And using my chair has been really beneficial in the quality of conversations that I'm able to have, because I don't have to pay attention to if my voice changes and I sound mad, because a lot of the time when I would get from point A to point B, I'd be huffing and puffing, and people that knew me were like, are you mad? I know that's kind of a comment that I would get from close family, and I would just be like, no, I'm not mad. So it really saves me energy to have quality conversations, and I'm really learning how my body works within my chair, and I love my life with my chair more than I do my life without my chair. Excuse me. Oh, I skipped a page. Number 8. How will things change for people with CP? Well, I hope that things change for people with all disabilities for the better and for good. Not to be punny, not to be cheesy, but I am a total alphabet in life. My shirt says everyone deserves a chance to fly. And we recently, if you guys don't know, have had a major triumph within the disability community. Because Wicked actually casted a woman who is actually genuinely disabled to play Nessa Rose. She is a part-time wheelchair user who can walk independently, and she walks with equipment at times as well. Her name is Jenna Bainbridge. She's an actress who is phenomenal. She used to be in the musical Suffs. She was part of the original cast for Suffs. And after Suffs, she wanted to audition for Nessa because she knew that Nessa was being authentically casted at that time. And now she is making history as the first actress ever on Broadway to play Nessa. Aside from Marissa Bodie, who plays Nessa in the movie. So I hope that a lot of things within entertainment and anything else changes, because we need to see more representation, whether it be on TV or just in daily life. I mean, if you don't see something, you won't know that it's possible. Ever. So, we need more disabled adults to want to step up and want to break those barriers. And I know that a lot of the barrier breaking will come when our allies that are non-disabled, really take into account and take into heart that if places are not accessible and we want to get auditions and we want to, be part of the societal norm, quote unquote, that things need to be accessible. In order for us to get all these jobs and all these hurdles jumped, so to speak. So I hope society changes their mind, continually changes their mind, as they have with regards to Nessa Rose, and when Ali Stroker played Ado Annie, people saw that the girl with wheels could be the hot girl in the room. And I know from Ali's perspective, she has said in interviews, older interviews that she did when she was actually doing the role, that her performance opened up a lot of conversation that was not related to the show, but that was related to sexuality, dating, and disability. And I think that if there were more people in our community, in the disabled community, on stages and in front of people and just doing video podcasts and things like this, I think that the world would change for the better and quicker. And thank you so much to everybody that is out there Infinite Flow, Rolettes, you guys are doing amazing. Boundless Babe Society, I wouldn't be the woman that I am without you guys. So thank you very much. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, so thank you very much to all those people. Number 9 is, if you believe in God, which I do, if you believe in God, does that help you deal with it? Okay, so my belief in God does help me deal with my CP nowadays. Before, it didn't, because I was always mad at him. I was always mad at God, and I would tell him, "You made a mistake. Why did you make the mistake? Why did you make me as a mistake?" But now, my belief in God does help me deal with it, because I know that He put me here for a purpose. Everything that I'm doing right now has a purpose and a plan for the greater good that He wants to show other people, including disabled people and non-disabled people. And as far as the disability community is concerned, I hope that I am a light to say, this is what disability looks like when you grow up. It's not always going to be easy, but life is always worth it. Especially if you have awesome people around you that love you and support you. And I do. I'm very, very blessed with that. And number 10, which is something that I would have said yes to back in the day when I was like in my teens and 20s, but I will say no now. If there was a pill, would you take it? And I would not take it. Because I realize that God has me here for a reason, and I'm doing what He wants me to do. There was a time, oh yeah, give me any cure for my CP and I'll take it, because I do not want this life. I want to be normal, and whatever else. But over the years, I've seen, especially, I've lived in, I'll call it mental recovery. I have lived in mental recovery from all the doubt and all the naysayers and all of the pressure for 5 years now. Things like PT are things that I look forward to nowadays. When I was little, I did not look forward to it, and I fought tooth and nail not to go, and that led me down some bad places. But bad places that eventually got better and did turn into blessings, but I would not want to take that road again, because I know how detrimental it was. Initially how detrimental that was. So yeah, I would not take a pill that cured my CP. And speaking a little bit more about that, there are a lot of t-shirts and a lot of bumper stickers and a lot of things out there on the internet. And I've seen it on also, Amazon, where if you look up CP or CP awareness, some of the stuff will say working for a cure, some of the stuff will say CP warrior, and some of the stuff will say, some of the stuff is really generic and will just say, we'll just say I'm wearing green for a friend. Which I think that's cute. But I believe that there is a lot of discussion still going around about how we need a cure for CP. And I now, believes that we do not. Because I believe that people with CP can live a full life. And everybody's full life looks different. My life isn't going to look like your life. Your life isn't going to look like your neighbor's. Or my brother's, or my sister-in-law's, which I got to admit, there's stuff that's happened in my brother's life that hasn't happened in mine. There's stuff that has happened in my cousin's lives that hasn't happened in mine, and I wish that it did. But I am going down my own path, my own God-given path, for reasons that I don't know yet. And a lot of the things that have happened to me, or that have not happened to me, have been for a reason, and I would never want to change it. Even though I do sometimes get frustrated with it, I would never want to change it. So, anyways, you guys, that is the last question. And I hope that you have a beautiful, blessed day. If you are somebody who is wearing green for a friend or loved one on today, March 25th, 2025, for National CP Day, thank you so much for being one of our allies. And I hope that you would continue to see your loved ones and friends as simply just people that you want to get to know. To those of you guys who are in my life that know me to my core, thank you so much for your support. Andrew, thank you. Amy, thank you. Ocean, thank you. Mom, Dad, thank you. Everybody at Eagle Rock Baptist, thank you for loving me all these years and bringing me into every activity that I could ever be brought into. And so you guys, just remember, even if you are somebody who does not have a person with CP in your life or any disability at all, and you're listening to this, remember to treat people like people, and ask them what they love first before you ask them anything intrusive like, what's wrong with you? What happened? Are you in therapy? Because they might be in therapy, and they might be like me, and they might love the team that they work with, or they might want to hide under a rock when anybody brings that stuff up. So just be gentle and love the people for being people. I will talk to you guys later. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.